Hello and welcome. Today I'm doing peach preserves or peach jam with Pomona's Pectin. I prefer to use Pomona's Pectin over any other one because it's a low sugar jam, and instead of having to use 6 cups of sugar, I just need to use 1 or 2 cups, and I can have that real nice fresh peach flavor. And the first step is to blanch your peaches. You want to make sure that they're nice and ripe. My peaches that I'm using are not particularly ripe, so I'm going to have issues with peeling my skins off because I didn't wait long enough for them to ripen. But I was in a bit of a rush today. When you blanch your peaches, you want to make sure that they almost look like they're dimmed, like they've lost 20% of their hue saturation, because they'll be bright and fresh and beautiful when they go in, and then they'll sit in the water and boil, and the skins will loosen up, and they'll look much paler. And when you're done blanching them, you can tell from the color, like I said. You put them in some ice water, and that will help stop the cooking process so you don't have mushy, overcooked peaches that you're trying to skin. That's a nightmare, trust me, I've done that, but they will literally deteriorate in your hand and burn the crap out of you if you don't follow the step. Now I'm just peeling the peaches. They should slough off really easily. You should just be able to take a grip on the skin and it will come right off and leave very little flesh behind. If you have a lot of flesh that's coming off with the peel, then you know that either your peaches weren't ripe enough or you didn't boil them long enough. I had issues with these because they were severely underripe. And this is a prime example of how it should behave when you try and peel it. It should literally come off in a sheet. It's beautiful. It looks exactly like the peach emoji. It's so pretty. Um, Comes off and it leaves the beautiful color behind. I mean, it should just be perfect. But that peach was particularly ripe and boiled for long enough that that worked. So when you peel your peaches, you pit them and you cut them into pieces. Save your peels because you can make jelly with those later. And I use a potato masher because it's what I have. I'm just mashing and cooking and mashing and cooking until I get a consistency that I like. I like pretty pureed jam because I want it to be nice and spreadable. And once I get the texture I want, I add in the calcium water, the lemon, the bottled lemon, and the sugar and pectin mixture, and any spices that I want to flavor it with. Just make sure you keep it under 1 teaspoon. And then you just want to cook it. You bring it to a boil, and then you cook it for a minute, 2 minutes maybe. This pectin sets up really easily because of the way that it's activated. And when you're done, you'll know because when you stick a spoon or something in there, the jam will clump together and come off as one sheet. That's how you know it's set. Or you can use the other two methods, which are like stick a spoon in the freezer and then put it in there, and if it sets on the spoon, then you know it's good. I use the sheet method with the spoon that I'm using to stir because I don't want to dirty another dish. Then we're going to fill our jars. When you fill your jars, you want to make sure you have nice, clean jars that have no debris in them, no dust, no nicks, no scratches, no cracks. They need to be pristine jars. The headspace for jams is about 1/4 of an inch, so it's usually the first band down from the top of the jar, and it's easy to make a gigantic mess of things. If you overfill your jars, you can usually experience a lot of siphoning. That's when your food heats up and then it starts pushing out from under the lid. And if you get too much siphoning, it can actually prevent your seal from happening. So you really want to avoid that if you possibly can. Now, when you're done filling your jars, checking your headspace into bubbling, then you want to use vinegar on a rag and you want to clean the rim thoroughly. Filling these jars is a messy process, and you can end up with stuff stuck to the rim and you don't know it, you don't see it, and it can prevent your seal. And when you've thoroughly cleaned the rim of your jar, you put your lid on fingertip tight. You don't want to use your wrist to crank down, because if you tighten the lid too much, it will prevent any venting from happening during the process. And then you end up with a broken jar. Now I'm processing my jars, and I'm using, I think it's my Instant Pot rack in the bottom of just a normal stock pot on my stove. You don't need anything special. Water bath canning is probably the easiest thing you can possibly do. You let it come to a boil with your jars in there, and 1 inch of water, at least 1 inch of water over the jars. And then when you boil them, you're going to set the timer for 10 minutes. When the timer's done, you're going to turn the burner off, let the jars cool off inside of the hot water so that they don't experience thermal shock when you pull them out, because the air is going to be cooler than the inside of the pot, and you don't want them to break on you. And you'll set them aside. You will let them seal, let them cool overnight, and then the next morning you can take your bands off, check your seals. You can pick up the jar by the lid, and you'll know, because the lid won't fall off. There's an actual vacuum that prevents that from happening inside of the jar. And you can wash them, get any debris off, get any calcium off, and label them and put them on your shelf. Give them as a gift, or just eat them yourself. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will try to answer them.